Yeah, greetings, everybody. Give thanks for another Real Radio Talk podcast here on the StreamYard and the YouTube. We got the good
Jumbo,
brothers in Wsir, Baraka, and
Jumbo.
Khufu.
Greetings.
Give thanks
Aye,
for
aye.
But
yes.
that's the fiery Ras Baraka.
I give
So
thanks to
today,
God.
tonight,
Aye.
Nice to meet you.
yes.
Mhm. Give thanks to life.
Wow. I don't
Give
even
thanks
know
to
where to
you,
start with
Lord.
Sar.
But listen, the beginning is already begin and it's begun. This is a review now. A review of the program we did keep the other day on Zoom. I suppose that and it's gonna be on your real radio talk very, very soon. Um the full thing. So even people who see the review before them see the fullness will go and have a listen to that. Because obviously we might not cover everything, but we just have to touch one and two things. So
Yeah.
that are the plan, not Empress and Kings.
Yeah, but we will cover everything. We will cover everything. So when they do hear the original, they will say, "Oh, okay, I see what the review was talking about." Because nobody, I don't know about the three of you, but I know about me. There's no need for me to lie. I'm how I see it. And when they see the original cast, they're gonna understand why the way I see it. And that's why we're here doing the preview, the review, because a lot of things was not done properly. It was cut short, done deliberately. It's a lot of child's play going on, and it was so obvious. But this child's play, Khufu, is what I told you what you was going to expect before we went on that. I told you a few days before when you asked me, what conversation, and everything I told you came to pass. Agree or
Yeah,
disagree. If you don't think so, you
I
can
agree.
disagree. It doesn't even matter.
I agree. I agree. I was I was a little thrown off. I was kind of prepared for more of a like a more of a debate type of environment, but it was more like he started it off by saying that it's not going to be a debate. It's just going to be a conversation. Yet I felt like the people that agreed with him more on his side of the fence, he kind of let them like go in more, you know what I mean? And then it seemed like the people that didn't agree with his paradigm or his understanding or his belief, it seemed like he kind of like cut them off. Like he cut me off. He wouldn't let me really go in like I really wanted to. So yeah, I see what you're saying. It had some biasness to it. Let's just put it that way. It was some biasness to the situation.
Well, what I realized is
And
that
that's
it wasn't really a conversation. It was really a kind of like I told the Empress, a repartee, like using just little quips and sly little words, but not really discussing anything that was brought up. That is why I had to ask Ja lost, I mean Jasik. I had to ask Jasik that where is where is the Garden of Eden? And he said Ethiopia. So I told him there are 4 rivers that come out of the Garden of Eden. So where is the source of the Nile? So he said Ethiopia and Uganda. So I asked him, where is the source of the Tigris and the Euphrates? So that had him stumped because they don't have the same source. So that's a geographical error in the Bible. But that wasn't discussed. That wasn't discussed. So and that was just skipped over. So I think we're dealing with a what we call what's the name, um, dissonance, cognitive dissonance. And I think that is what we're actually dealing with. No matter what truth you come with, as you said, it's genetically, like it's in the genes. But I think Rastafari should read a little bit more. I think our biggest problem is that we don't read and we put superstition above knowledge, and that is the big problem.
And belief.
And
Believing.
And Priest Isaac didn't even want you. Priest Isaac didn't want you to, and Priest Isaac didn't want you to question him because he knew that he didn't have those answers. But he uses them to speak certain things, thinking they're getting ready to win in the argument or win in the discussion. And if it doesn't, he received it to go, then cut it off. That's why I said that they're sick and they don't want to change. They're not the type of people that's seeking to change. You understand me? They just want to waste your time and wordplay with you and play on your intelligence.
They want to believe.
And then when
they
you
just
start
want to
backing
believe.
them up into a point, then you get cut off.
Right. They don't want to know. They want to believe. They don't want to deal
Just like
in
Baba
fact.
Small said last night.
Baba said it straight. He set the record straight.
Night. Most of the time,
he set the record straight.
You just want to have that poor man mentality and think because you're poor, you're gonna get this salvation. So you're going to congregate every Saturday or Sunday, nice with your brother and sister, but you're going home to a poorhouse. Poor man mentality. That's why Rastafari is stagnant the way it is. That's why it's a stagnation. Bobo Hill looked like a dump yard. It don't look nothing like it looked when Emmanuel was living. It's supposed to look like a Wakanda right now.
Well,
see, they didn't want to have that conversation. They didn't want to have that. Go ahead.
Yeah, because as being, one of the last ones to speak and probably the ones who get to speak the less, I realize, yes, I have to agree that there was some, definitely some bias, and everything changed because I did expect Priest Isaac to also participate in the reasoning. As a priest, if there's a reasoning going on regarding the Bible, we expect you to partake. And not only that, I do expect that it's going to be within Rastafari orders, and then Rastafari is the foundation of the reasoning. Like, for example, Rastafari no deal with belief, faith, and trust. Rastafari established off a knowing, intuition, inborn concept. So all I and I would hold that foundation. So we're having a debate or reasoning turn debate, reasoning turn, whatever you want to call it, and turn it into is the orders is still the orders. So you can't come in at this with a bag of belief and a bag of things where outside of the order, because Rastafari is a liberation thing where I and I changed the mindset that was put in I and I DNA and in I and I history, the war against African, the Holocaust. So Rastafari said to reverse that. And all I and I ancients from the first and second and generation coming forward, I deal with that liberation mindset. Obviously we could have gone through more of the history of how, we have people, so much into the Bible, And we could have gone more into, you know, issue who are going to South Africa, a whole heap of Bible, um, Rastafari, and we could have gone more into, you know, the facts, the reality, and we could have had more understanding. 'Cause like, for example, we asked Jalas or Jasika or whatever. We asked one of Priest Isaac main speaker, you know, that you know, did Moses leave Egypt and turn him back and cross the Red Sea and thing? And it took them a while to answer that until them answer it and say yes. But this I made the point that that is where, you know, it's a primary school game, that where somebody tell you that, oh, don't look at that, go forward and look at that, like a child said, look over there, and then grab the sweetie or whatever. You know, a primary school thing, that this is where the trick begin. They told you to look, to cross the sea when God done kill off all of the firstborn of Egypt, will never have nothing to do with nothing. And then God sent them across the sea and kill off a whole heap of more Egyptians. And Moses is a killer. We put the point to them that
Yeah, but they didn't like. They don't want to touch that part of the Bible. They just
yeah,
they don't want to touch that part of the Bible. They only want to touch the part of the Bible that makes them feel good.
Yeah, we'll put the point.
Visual,
And to add on to that,
like you were saying, the murder.
go ahead.
Inside of how they look down on women.
To
Go ahead,
add on
Khufu.
to that, I said to add on to that.
Oh no, I was saying they don't want to try and touch those areas. He want to cut you off and let the silly elder speak. You understand? All three of them,
Yeah.
all four of them up there was clowns to me. And then
Yeah,
he invites a European on the platform that's supposed to speak for us.
He
That's
cut me
supposed to
out.
have an opinion about us. So you're not
Before-
really. He's not really about black literature. Not about black people, Wsir. What you have to do there for? No disrespect to the white boy. You could be Rasta, be whatever you want, but you have to know your place, and that's the problem. They don't know their place, and we don't put them in their place. And when we do put them in their place, you got ones that look like us.
No.
You got
He
ones
was
that look
at
like
the
us
place.
telling us that we're wrong for saying that he shouldn't be there.
Yeah. He that the brother.
So we
that
see
brother.
where Priest Isaac is. Now we know where Priest Isaac. That shows us what Priest Isaac is dealing with. Right there, plain and simple.
The white man
Right
cut
there,
me
plain
off.
and simple. There's no way around it. No.
The first time I'm talking, everyone spoke on the panel. Even one spoke. They met Jala speak twice, and before I speak, right? And by the time the second line, the white man cut me off.
He purpose.
So what does that tell you? We are trying to have a African family meeting, you know, our reasoning, our debate, whatever. And the man interrupt me straight away, right? They never wanted to address issues where we say, yo, everybody in the Bible a killer. King David is a killer. So we look on it, because one man say, yeah, the Bible is love and everything. So if it's love and I'll be a killing. You know, and the panel, your panel, Real Radio Talk panel, did put to some points regarding the you know, that this where the Bible come from, and you know why it was introduced and what it's doing to our mind, and you know, basically the plagiarization and everything. And then I respond to none of that. But the Ample was gonna add something to this. What? Yeah, you do want to add something to this, yes?
Yeah, I was just saying, like, even yeah, go ahead, Wsir.
Well, like I said, cognitive dissonance. Priest Isaac, I think I was saying that elders have a big part to play and they have a big influence. And we dare not speak about certain about certain controversial or things our immediate elders do not support, you know, and bring division, you know, in that relationship, and that relationship is a strong relationship. So a lot of times, what I'm seeing is that Preciser is already in Kemet, but he's still trying to bring Kemet into Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and the King James Version of the Bible, which is something that's impossible. And there also are a few that try to take the biblical characters in the Bible and try to make them the Kemetiu or figures in our history. And I think we have to be very careful, because if you tell me like Joseph was Imhotep, because there is a story of a farming, then I would tell you, but we know who's Imhotep's mother. So in your story, who is Joseph's mother? So it's a totally different story, you know. So it's not about them not releasing the Bible, you know, but we have many books. The African never had one book. We have many books, you know. Look at Timbuktu, how many books we have there. Even in Kemet, you have the Rhine papyri, Ebers papyri, you know, and all the different names of the Swift papyri, all the different names by Europeans. So we had a lot of documentation and a lot of wisdom teachings. So there was a time that they told the Africans you had no history. Our stories were the Anansi stories. But we had a wisdom literature, you know. And from the time of Napoleon, and then Champollion, what happened was they deciphered the miniature. So it was no longer an African nation. So they claimed it for Europe. So all this, I'm saying all this is because right now it is available. And even if you can't read the Medu you can, there are still English translations.
Yes.
So it is there. You don't have to speak the ancient language.
Yes.
But that's how humanity operates. We're one entity moving forward, gaining knowledge from all over and putting it to the use of the collective, and we move forward, you know, in space and time.
But
Go
you
ahead,
notice,
brother.
I totally agree with that. And to add on to that, brother, if you notice, when I was about to really take apart what that elder was saying, he said he can't read the Metanetter. He can only speaks English. And it was just like, you know, like, in other words,
he's an
I
English
don't
man.
want to. Yeah, but in other words, I don't want to go that deep. I only want to stay right here because this is where I'm comfortable at. Basically, I'm comfortable with my belief. You know, I don't want I don't want what I've been believing in probably all of my life for the last 20 to 30 years. I don't want that to be destroyed. I don't want that to be, you know. So it's like you said, it's cognitive dissonance. It begins to be not even about whether it's the true or whether it's the truth or not. It becomes, you know, it's fear of having to step outside of that book, having to step outside of the Bible to see what's really out. It's like a box they live in, and they're afraid to open that. They're afraid to step out of that box, whether it's the truth or not.
Yeah, yeah.
Whether you know, it's like it begins to be not even about whether what they believe in is the truth or not. It's like fear. It's, you know, okay, I'm gonna use for example. Have you saw Django Unchained, the movie Django Unchained?
Yeah, yeah, man. Yes, sir.
You remember at the end of the movie where Jamie Foxx, the slave owners blow themselves up, right? And he opens that cage and he frees them, but they didn't come out. They just looked when he opened the gate. When he opened the cage, they just looked at him like they didn't even know what to do. They didn't even know they can step outside of that cage and they were free. You know, that's how I use that as an example. But that's basically what Bible believers are. You can open the cage up that they live in and allow them to step outside of it, but they will not even step outside of it. They'll look at you like you crazy, like you don't even know, they don't even know what you're doing. You know what I mean?
When you see the doctrine itself, remember the doctrine tells you, do not add or take away. So that means you confine, you're in a box.
That's what I mean. Yeah. That's exactly what I mean.
It says, do not think, do believe, blind faith.
All Abrahamic religions will put you and seal you in a box.
Yes.
They put fear in you. They make you, the God in those books, in those books is nothing but fear. If you have to be scared of him, he threatens you all throughout the book.
That's why
you don't do this.
But he is scary because he can change his mind in a minute, right? He kill off all the firstborn. Like them man that mash up, burn up the whole city, whole earth.
Yeah, kill everybody.
If kill it with water, everybody dead.
Yeah.
You see that God is that man, as I put to them in that reasoning. That man kill off the best servant, Job. They send the devil upon him. Yeah. Now his best servant, yeah, he send the devil to go and test him and kill off the whole of family.
They're partners. They're business partners. They're business partners. Yeah.
The brother Wsir now I talk about. Oh, the Bible is quoted and we are taking it too literal.
Yeah.
What is quoted? Listen.
You see that Wsir? He's very condescending. They move like a circle of snakes. You see a circle of snakes operate? That's what I was seeing. Yeah. He's very condescending. All of them.
But even before we get to that,
a circle of snakes. You say one thing in the first hour, and at the end of the hour, it's time for you to close out. You say something else.
Something else. Yeah, true.
You're talking about the code in the Bible. How are you going to decode pedophilia? How are you going to decode pedophilia? How you decode patriarchy? How do you decode that? How do you make sense of that? Trying to be too smart. Trying to win when you're not right within.
But before we even get
anyway, go ahead.
I want to blaze that up differently. Yeah. Want to blaze that up in that.
Well, you mentioned it, so I just had to go.
Yeah, but it's coming. It's coming. That part, that review and that section is coming. But we just want to add to what the I for them just said, which is, but you know, the thing is, like Medinetta, it is the word of the Most High. Now, the Kamawu had another language for everyone, just like how in Ethiopia you have Giz, and then you have Amharic for everyone, for the accountants, you're doing your business and this and that. But Medinetta is the high. I heard something different on one of your programs, but I'll tell you straight. Medinetta is the highest. Now watch this. Medinetta not that difficult to learn. You know, people read chapter a day and do all of these things in the Bible, Rasta world. And, you know, like, for example, a sheet like this, see, like, it's not that difficult if you can see it. But everyone can find something like that on the internet. And what it kind of do, it just, then you know the alphabet, and you know the sound, and you know the character. So if you get a version of like Wallace A. Budge, Book of the Dead, where him call it. I think some of our scholars rename it Per Emru, and Ra'un rename it Nuk Anetir, meaning I'm a divine being, because every single chapter in that book is pointing towards one achieving one's divinity and knowing oneself. So Medinat are not that difficult to learn still, especially considering the amount of time and chapter I deal with the man them spend. I read up some holy thing, right? As they tell me, since I put on the Bible, I get 3 degrees. You understand? So a whole heap, and I mentioned earlier that Rasta not read enough. Why we are stuck. And then now, in a reason, me still I go to the original point of the make. Because as a Rastafari, when we come in a Rastafari place, we expect the Rastafari orders to be upheld, especially when you have priests in the place. And I impulse we are tried it from long. We have to see the honor and the respect. So we should be using our intuition. And when Rasta come together, we always like a groundation. So I'm expecting, regardless of the format of the reasoning, one voice we're gonna get was trying to speak equally. We're not gonna get pushed and bullied around. Even though we're a warrior, we humble ourselves towards Rastafari liberty, cause that we choose. Cause Jah is the word power sound. Yes, the J exists in the Indus Kush culture. Check where never amen, like Medinata 7, and you see the J exists, but some boy can't use it. Yeah? When Rastafari says Jah, Rastafari, it is a powerful word power sound that ignite the will. Heru, Shango and I. And even though I see the priest from the Shango there, without the red turban, when I'm doing a black turban, Bawa Shanti Ada require the red turban and the Sunday. You see it? And also those even align with
they do what they want.
Nah, it don't work like that. Nah. But what we're talking and have the thing. It's like an Iron Man for all the others. We deal with the warrior thing. We make sure say we make sure say we put a fire upon the Bible. You see it, because here why? It's a very, very important step in the decolonization of your mind. This is a very important step.
But Ras Baraka,
Aye.
Ras Baraka, you're missing a very important aspect.
Straight away from
You're missing an important aspect of the tie between Rastas and the Bible have a lot to do with Haile Selassie I love the Bible. So in other words, they're using His Majesty to verify the Bible, while using the Bible to verify His Majesty. So I told Priest Isaac, that's a bit idiotic. It's a bit idiotic because you validate the Bible because of His Majesty, because you give Him the omniscience of the God of the Bible. And he couldn't answer that. He couldn't comment on that, because that is the real problem. Our view of divinity. Is it African worldview? Is it tied into African spirituality, Ubuntu? Or is it about your relationship with the unseen God? And
you're breaking up, Wsir.
Yeah, I'm saying that, is it about your personal relationship?
You're breaking up, Wsir. You sound muffled.
I sound muffled? Oh, I was saying that if it's... Is it
breaking up, and then you sound very distant?
Can everyone else hear me okay?
Yeah, you're very good now. You're good now.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I was saying that I'm hearing something on. Okay, yeah, I'm saying that
Yeah, somebody messing around with headphones or something.
I don't know.
Annoying.
Yeah, but I was saying that our view of His Majesty has a lot to do with our acceptance of the Bible, because most races, they don't really study the Bible. You know, they go to maybe the verses that deal with the conquering lion of Judah, the Nazarene vow, you know, these kind of aspects. But going really deep into the Bible, a lot of races are not that deep into the Bible. Races are very Afrocentric in the culture. A lot of what Rastafari does is very Afrocentric. But they still end up falling short because their view of longevity, they think must be aligned with rigidity. But longevity has to do with adaptation and evolution. You know? So they think by, like the Christians say, we shall never change. So they think by never changing, it's a virtue.
Well, the thing is, my lad, it's like this. I've, you know, I've read a thing called Rastafari Studies, even from the start, from about 2012, and in it there's a section where we got through, like for example, there's a number of reasons why, yeah, Rastafari, you know, deal with the Bible, and there's different groups. Like for example, you get enough people that a sector of the generation, like say EWF, who go to learn the Ethiopian style of worship and basically amalgamate fully into the Ethiopian Orthodox Church because they see that as the way. Same way we look at things where you get converts from Christianity to Rastafari, where you know, a lot of people, they mix it and things. And then again, you know, people, yeah, as you said, they use the fact that His Majesty, but that not, you know, when it comes to the others where Rastafari holds sacred is the fact that it's Marcus Garvey, and we have it, where anytime we are reason and we have a little we just go to the others, right? So I expect the reason to flow. Like for example, now we want to reevaluate the Bible and, you know, how it come in and what we have, what's the best progression for I and I, because you know, we still have to look our history proper, because yes, you know, some people say Marcus Garvey and, you know, Prince Emmanuel, why them you know, a lot of people use the Bible and, you know, but these people have a different mindset, because we have some of these people, you have to look on the thing on a different level. Like for example, Rastafari is about liberation, and nothing in that book there don't nothing to do with liberation. In fact, that's one of the things we have to reject. That is if we really, because what I do, I skip past, because I reason with the island, we skip past more or less the history and how it happened, and more or less within the Rastafari levels where we then know we have to figure out how to, you know, carry on from where our best achievement was in Rastafari. So for example, we create Haile Selassie, our own living, our own African Almighty. We have our own way of life, Rastafari. We have burned religion. That means that even if someone came into Rasta thing fully Bible head, then you would still have to keep that personal. Yeah, you couldn't bring that into the a liberation, real into Rastafari house. Like when we are talking about Rastafari as a unity, our religion would have to be personal if that were the case. No one can come with a divisive thing, because Rastafari is supposed to organize and centralize. Rastafari is supposed to be unity, supposed to be one thing. Yeah. Regardless of the mansions and whatever. And then we also know from Rastafari groundation that religion is a division and a hit cause division. So there's no way on planet Earth that we should have no kind of Bible scholars. That shouldn't even be relevant right now. And the pieces are already set. People who step forward in the liberation know sir, we don't need that. And a culture now, our scholars like Amos Wilson have defined for us what a culture should be. For example, a culture must benefit the people that are in that culture. And now when I grandfather, professor, said things like that, we have to resonate on things like that. Because man resonate on some scripture in the Bible, but they not resonate on what it is that really benefit you. Because as the Empress mentioned earlier, did the Bible now make them richer? The item mentioned earlier, so the Bible actually I tell us that it's easier if a camel go through the eye of a needle. It tells us that you can't rich. So when you rich, you can't enter heaven. So everyone content with poor life. When a black man know himself, then he know he rich. So man say he have to know I'm wealthy. You have to realize what the Bible is the significant. In fact, religion. Because when I just burn the Bible, all religion, all of them. Rastafari is a way of life. I would have put nothing before that. So, intuition is what we use in every reason. And among warriors who've been treading it a long time, we should always be able to use intuition. You see it? And we should always be able to actually, progress when we have a reason. Because that is a significant thing. We can't have a reason and then it end up in some kind of rare, like it always do. That proves that we don't reach the level yet. That's why the program we had yesterday, where the Baba came in and started immediately deal with. So what's going on with the pedophilia? What's going on with the rape? These things, but the Bible then make the thing will make these things continue too. Cause look at the Catholic Church and them thing them too much pastor get catch up with this and that. Catholic Church.
That's what he was saying.
They might use. Look, that's what he was saying.
That's exactly what he was saying. That these.
Go on. Just to finish, you look how many suicide cults. Yeah, they have out of the same book. And Rasta have that on his shelf. Why do you need that for? Like it's not for, if anything, it could not be for your spiritual development. Cause that could never be that. Cause that's what's in the church where people are the pedophilia. We have to stay far from that. Because if you go take so-called in the Bible, you take a Nazarite vow and this and that, and not even go near wine, and not even grape. Where the grape, because the grape even make the wine. So that means you shouldn't even go near a book that's in a place that have pedophilia attached to it and rape and the Holocaust against your people. The soldiers that were reading that book when they come to cut off the neck and rape up a woman them and mash up the whole of the place. We just have been a normal life. And the elder Baba also told them last night that. So there's a whole lot of information here on this real radio, because Baba also told them last night that the history of how Christianity got into Ethiopia. No one need to go watch that. Just like every question me ask him tell me if I go research. And I go watch that. Right? And really research. And so we it's like when you become, because I asked the question, you know, when you leave Rastafari and become an Ethiopian Orthodox Christian, yeah, don't you realize that is like colonizing yourself again? You see? And how can the slave and the slave master have the same Bible, same book, and have the same God? Rasta's supposed to be able to just take natural knowledge, natural intuition, prove that you have an inborn concept, prove that Rasta is an inborn concept, just like the ancients said. Use your own common sense. You can work it out. That's what we expect in any Rasta reasoning. It shouldn't be, no, yeah, come with the facts. I come with the intuition. And the facts are the intuition behind the facts. And the facts affirm to you that you have your intuition, right?
Yeah, they go hand in hand.
Yeah. So you get that confirmation that you are following the right intuition and it's coming with the right seeds. So, and you know, if they're really wise, even every one of them proverbs and them sin, which we know is Putahotep, the Bible is plagiarized to the T. And what happened at the Nicene Council? None of them ever mentioned that last night.
No, they didn't. But see, he wasn't going, not to cut you off, brother, but let me just add on to that. Let me add on to that.
Please.
They wouldn't let us get that deep. That's why I just sat there quiet and I just did more listening, because I wanted to see who I was dealing with, what I was dealing with. I was doing more listening because, you know, the minute I tried to like really get into a deep conversation and make it make sense, you know, he cut me off and went on to somebody else. So it's like there's a cutoff point where, you know, the cognitive dissonance kicks in to the point where they don't even want to hear it. They just shut their eyes, their ears, their mind. They shut down. It's like a shutdown valve that they have. And, you know, when the truth hits their spirit, I don't think, you know, like the Empress said, they get sick. It's like it's in their genetics, you know, it's a poison in their system. It's poison in their mind, in their spirit. And when you try to bring that out,
yes, it is.
It gets them, you know, the same way a person that's hooked on drugs or an alcoholic, if you take them away from that, they get sick. They get sick. Mm-hmm. You see what I mean? And it's kind of that same, it's it's that same thing to me. You know what I mean? It's like they don't want to hear it. And I think another thing is when you've been believing in something for so long, you don't know existence outside of that belief. You don't know how to exist outside of that belief system. So it seems to me that's the problem that we have with these people who choose to use those Abrahamic faiths as the truth, as the word of God, as the truth. You know, because it's all the same. Like you know, the Hebrew Israelites, everybody who used this book, right? They all have the same symptoms. When you try to get that out of their system, they all have the same symptoms. Yeah. So, you know, I say all of that to say that everything you said was 100% factual. And like you said, the Baba Smalls, you know what I mean? They need to listen to him. They need to listen to him because it's like, how can the way he broke it down and made it sound so, I mean, like you said, your intuition knows that what the Baba was saying is the truth. Yes. You feel it. You feel it in your spirit when you feel the truth. When the truth presents itself to you, it's undeniable. You can't even. It's like, you know what I mean. It's a feeling you get that you can't even really explain that feeling. You just know that this is the truth, right? And because I was a Bible believer, you know what I mean. Like I come from a Christian background. You know, then my father, you know, he broke away from Christianity and became Muslim, right? So I was born Nation of Islam, And then I broke away from all of that. I broke away from all of that because I saw that it was basically the same. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Abraham, Isaac, Ishmael, and Jacob. See what I mean? It's the same. So I say all of that to say, so I understand how hard it was for me to break away from that. You know what I mean? But you have to realize that it's life outside of that box that they live in. It's life outside of that. Freedom is outside of that box. You know, and go ahead.
As I mentioned, like, and the Empress is like, they will get sick. So, but they were asking on that program. So, how do you get rid of this, right? So and how
and you're a priest.
Yeah,
you're a priest asking that question.
No, exactly, and then not only that is. We all have a heights can give the priest, and even the kafra have a heights can give the priest. But the point, the first point that I miss is which is stop and take it. You know, you can't you will get sick. Yes, I agree. A lot of them will get sick. You know, but you know you will. That's how it go. Like if someone want to get off of drugs or alcohol, you know. They do go away and call cold turkey. You know, I can't sorry for you. It's for your better. It's for your good.
Yes.
So you're gonna feel sick. You're not gonna feel right. But you know, there's warriors out there you can reason with who can give you some things close. Like I see man reading the Wsir, this and that. That close. They give you. You can read the scriptures I put out there. You can read the walls. You don't have to call it the book at the bed. And the white man call it that.
Well, hold on. And Baba Smalls, hold on for a minute. And Baba Smalls gave several book examples that they can start with.
Yeah. There you go.
He gave several examples.
You know,
and he put the book up to the screen.
Example,
so you can't just say, hold on for a minute. Hold on for a minute. And he put the book up to the screen so you can see the cover of the book. You can see the author. You can't say you missed the name or anything. You can always go rewind it back and look at the picture. He named some books also. Wsir was naming books. All they had to do was ask Wsir. He was on that platform 4 times.
Yeah.
All they had to do was ask him what books from your collection that you have read over the years would you recommend me to start reading once I put this Bible down, because they act like they lost. They act like they don't know what to do once they put the Bible down. You priest, you prophet, and you don't know what to do. You're supposed to be above this wisdom that we're talking about, first of all. So for you to even ask me that question, I have to question your position as a priest or your position as a so-called prophet. Because nowadays, anybody could go up there and get turban and robe and say they're a priest. But when you have a dialogue with them, you see where their meditation is at, and it ain't really nowhere. It's not really nowhere.
You know, I don't think they're sincere seekers, because even if they ended a sincere seek, they would have read the missing books from the Bible. So they got some scriptures where they call the lost books and the forgotten books and all these other books and books and books, right? And if they followed that path and read more Bible books, they would realize, because say, for example, Adam and Eve's story continued in the last books or the forgotten books, continued. Adam is getting sweaty. He got killed about 10 times. It's like crazy. It's a mad thing, right? The more you read that stuff, if they had read it, they would have realized, say, this thing, and I said, go. You know, they would have continued, and at least they would have come to a conclusion that it's done now. Yeah.
You know what, brother? I was going to say that. I didn't really get a chance to say that, but I was going to ask that elder, right? I was going to ask him, how can you put your faith and belief in a book that is half finished, that they took about over 10 books they've taken out of it? Who, matter of fact, who took the books out? Who took the books out? First, we got to do research on who took the books out, why they took the books out, and the fact that there are books taken out and you're still trying to push this on our people and still putting a belief, putting that your everything in an unfinished book. And I spoke to the Empress when I talked to her. I said, that's like walking in a movie theater and paying for a half-finished movie. Would you go walk in a movie theater and pay for a half-finished movie? Then why are you Why are you putting your belief in a half-finished book? And you call that the word of God, right? But it ain't even finished. You don't even have some of the words of this God has been taken out of this book. But you guys are still like, you know, putting your whole belief and your whole building your whole life around this book.
Yeah, but a Rasta don't deal with belief. If it's not a fact, a Rasta only supposed to lean on knowing. There shouldn't be a belief that comes before our liberty. We only deal with knowing. And a man can have theories and philosophies and philosophers who reason about different things that don't have nothing to do with the liberty.
They know. They think they know.
Well, you can't. Well, then don't bring it here because if they
don't think they're dealing with belief.
You can't know, but you can't know what you can't prove, though. They can't prove any of those people in the Bible existed. They can't find a tomb. They can't find a body. They can't find anything from anybody, anything from or a tomb or a temple or any of that from any of those people in the Bible.
They have to let it go then. A Rasta would have to let it go. Yes,
right.
You can't prove it if it's not real. If it's not knowing, if you don't know it as a fact and can't prove it, Rasta has to let it go. Because that's the easiest way to re-educate. Because you know, we've been miseducated. So what it is, you can't clean out a house by just trying to dust down things and you have a whole heap of junk in there. You get everything out. Everything. And then if you see a few things where it was good to you and precious to you and still abuse, you bring it back in, clean it up, and the rest of the thing you just go and dump them. You can't deal with no belief, no faith, no trust. Rastafari liberty is about knowing.
Now, some years ago, I came across a dissertation did by, I forgot the name of the author, you know, but he wrote a whole dissertation on Rastafari and our view of His Majesty coming from Jewish mythos. And I think I read almost the entire dissertation on my page on YouTube. And he goes, let me just read a little piece of it here. I do concede that Rastafari do rely on Christian nomenclature and narratives that they glean from biblical passages to identify the God of Ethiopia in the personage of Haile Selassie I. As the literature review indicates, using the nomenclature of Jah, Babylon, and Zion, identification with God and Jesus Christ, for some, the Rastafari's identification with the Israelites and others clearly suggests that Christianity influences Rastafari thought. Though these influences are important and warrant necessary questioning, using Christianity as lens to understand Rastafari thought not only invalidates their thought, as the review of literature indicates, but possibly misses the ancient spiritual significance of their thought. These works in the review of literature contribute to Rastafari scholarship in general and definitely inspire considerable research interest. These works, however, definitely provide a clear epistemological path from which I must deviate. This dissertation begs to argue for the placement of Rastafari's conceptualization of Haile Selassie within the context of Kemetic cosmology by employing an African symbolic approach. Using this approach, biblical source and written historical facts are not as important as reading Rastafari conceptualizations of Haile Selassie as a process of remembering ancient forces comprising existence. In many ways, then, these theologically based secondary academic sources, although extremely limited in number, undoubtedly inspire my interest in an African symbolic interpretation. The major contribution of this dissertation, then, may be that it challenges the Judeo-Christian academic approach of Rastafari's conceptualization of Haile Selassie. Chapter 3 outlines the first step in our symbolic approach to
I don't even know what that noise is.
Yeah, that's battery. Let me go and charge up.
Well, I think Rastafari, yes, would move into a new way of thinking, a new faculty, where and I definitely, I don't agree with everything that I just heard, but I do agree one bit where say, like, for example, Kamau, ancient Egyptian liberty is it's needed. Like, for example, if we use ancient Kamau teachings, and we can ink up, that's what we need. That's in fact, from you have your locks, you are the ancient Kamau, the ancient word fear are far right. And as you can see, where we are, where the judge are aware of the thing. Yeah. So we know we know say it belonged to I, and we know say it was a childish game, and we figure it out even by just reasoning. I own intellect. No say them take that away from I. So it's time for I sit down and I great ancient grandfather lab. We not even need to look nowhere else. Why? Because we have the first. No, I said, some might disagree, but definitely, yeah. The veneration of Wsir and the veneration of Ra is the two system. Even I heard Baba reading from the veneration of Ra, which tell you everything about the cosmology of creation, a creation where include I, where I can speak up. If I drink up the Nile and realize I divinity, then I would know I is among the first multitude of men and the first multitude of women that come on the face on earth. Not Adam and Eve. They can't hold on to a book where say Adam and Eve. They have to let that go. You can't teach that to your children. You can't pass on that. That's cruel.
Well, they already said.
No.
They already showed us that they're not letting the Bible go.
No.
You don't see that? They already showed us they're not letting that Bible go.
No.
They made that perfectly clear with all the excuses and the cutoffs and not letting ones finish their build. They made that clear that they're not leaving it. They're so clear that they even had the nerve to ask, what do we do if we put it down? How do we upgrade our DNA?
But
those questions alone show you that that's not somebody. Those questions alone show you that that's not somebody that's seeking to evolve from the Bible. Because nobody have told me what to do once I put that Bible down. I knew exactly what to do. They don't want to. Look at the excuse the elder gave Khufu. I'm English. I speak English. I don't speak glyphs. I don't speak Meruneta. And he said, well, your classes, yeah, I know. He knows, but he won't take the classes because he likes being an Englishman. He likes who he is. He likes the Greek and the Abrahamic religion and traditions. And if he can make it African, make his sound right, he's going to do that.
Yeah, remember he said the Bible is an African book. He said the Bible's an African book.
He's a product of the Queen of England.
Right. He says it's an African book, but all the African nations in the Bible is cursed. Every African nation that the Bible speaks of, God got a curse on it one way or the other. Yeah. But you know what I mean? But it's an African book though. Like I really wanted to talk to that elder. That's who I wanted to pull to the side, and because I feel like that's who Priest Isaac is listening to. I feel like that's one of his go-to people that he listens to. And the stuff that man was saying was absolutely factual. You can just debunk that really easy. I could have debunked a lot of stuff he was saying really easy just by using common sense. Just common sense alone. I don't have to pull out no book or anything. Like a lot of that stuff he was saying could just be debunked just using common sense. You know what I mean? But they cut me off. He wouldn't let me finish talking to him. He cut me off and never let me get back to talking to the elder. You know what I mean? So that's
those who watch.
Remember, he said he was muted. Remember, Khufu. Remember. Hold on for a minute. Khufu, remember when he said we're gonna get back to Khufu and he mentioned the elder's name, and then he said if he wants to. So I'm telling you, the elder messaged him and said he didn't want to reason with you no more because he already saw he fool, an old fool, because that's what he is. That's why he never got to you. He went straight to Jalos, straight to Isern. I don't know what, but to them again. He never came back to you.
Yeah, I know.
And when you left, because I heard the recording. I don't know if y'all took time to listen to the recording that I sent y'all, but I heard the recording. He's going to try to apologize for that. It's too late now. You should apologize when Khufu was on the line. When I told him that he was rude and that he cut your build off with the elder. He should, and when he was disrespectful, he could have easily said, I'm not being disrespectful, Brother Khufu. Pardon me if that's how you feel. But I'm a whole thing, whatever he would. But he didn't do
And
that.
this is,
He tried to clean
and
it
this
up
is
toward
my
the
thing.
end, so he didn't look. Go ahead.
Correct. And this is my thing. If you have the truth, you should be able to stand by it. You should be able to stand your ground. And anybody that challenges the truth, you should be able to correct them every time easily. If what you believe in is actually the truth, you shouldn't have a problem with dialoguing with someone who challenges your information. If your information is factual, you shouldn't have a problem. He shouldn't have had a problem talking to me about it. It shouldn't have been a problem. You know what I mean? It shouldn't have been no issue with him talking to me because I was trying to make it clear. Because what did he say? He said something like, there are some families that in Ethiopia, some kings or something that's related to people in the Bible or something. I'm paraphrasing, but he said something like that. Like, so I was trying to get him to be clear and say that so I can take that apart.
And then he lied and said he didn't say it. Yeah.
Yeah, he said it.
Mm-hmm.
He said it. I was just trying to get him on, on the recorded saying, okay, these are, because I was going to break it down, and what he was saying was factually not the truth. You know what I mean? Like, there's no one, you cannot prove that any of these people that you say, these kings that you speak of, are actually related to anybody in the Bible. You can prove, show me that. That's what I wanted to see. Show me, where's some of that? Show me that proof. Don't just open your mouth and say something like that and you can't back it up. You can't prove it. You know what I mean? But I already know it's strictly belief. It's strictly a belief system. They don't even go by facts. They go by belief. It's crazy. You know what I mean? It's like, so that's where I was trying to get to, but he wouldn't let me do it. I was a little confused why he had a Kemetic background. You know what I'm saying? Like you have a Kemetic background, yet you still. So it's like part of you knows the truth, but part of you don't. I guess the sickness in you don't want to admit, don't want to let it go. You know what I mean? Because why would you have a Kemetic background? I'm talking about Priest Isaac. Why would you have a Kemetic background if you didn't know that that's the truth? So like, what are you? Are you on the fence? What are you? And he really didn't say nothing about how he felt about anything. He kind of stayed neutral. He kind of stayed out of the, you know what I mean? He asked more questions than he did voicing his opinion. So it was like, where are you at with your understanding of things? That's what confused me. I'm like, wait a minute, he has a Kemetic background. Okay. I thought this guy was a Bible guy. You know what I mean? So according to the Bible, that stuff is evil. That stuff is from Satan. The Medu Netter and all that, according to the Bible, is wicked. It's wicked stuff.
You see, he's from a Bible school, and all his colleagues and his classmates are biblical. So he's talking against a lot of people he knows intimately. Maybe that's what has him, a bit squirmish.
Oh, I see. See, I don't know him. I don't know him like you guys do. I don't know. I don't know him like that.
We know Bobo. We know the Bobo Shanti. And we know about how they view Edward Emmanuel Charles and how they view the Bible, you know. So
Do they think
how,
do they
yeah,
think Kemetic spiritual system is wicked? Do they think it's like of Satan, or it's not,
well,
you know?
well, that falls under paganism
Oh, so it's
because,
paganism.
because this
A
is what
majority of them, a
this is what
majority of them do think that.
yeah, well,
Okay.
this is what they call animism, vitalism, animism, where everything is an aspect or emanation of that divine one we call Amen. So they are more on a materialism. They are closer to the European thought than they think, you know,
Oh, of course.
because it's the European that made that divine consciousness into a mortal man. And so
Right.
the Pope, after this mortal man flew away, the Pope took the title Vicar of Christ, holding the mantle for Christ's return. So it was a political tool, and for it to spread, remember they had to close the Temple of Philae, the last hold of the ancient system after Theodosius had passed his edict, and then after Justinian. You know, so the growth of Christianity was through outlawing the other things that were already there. It just didn't come and surpass all the others. You know, just like in the West, they outlaw phobia, they outlaw they outlaw the capoeira, they outlaw the different things that are the aspects of our African retention. You know,
Yeah.
so was it Baba Smalls was talking about it. The African retention that still remains in the islands and also in the American continent. That African retention. And this is what we're going back to. So we cannot let the Bible prevent us from going back to our origins. You know?
Sankofa.
Yes, and Kofa. You know, there are many things we left behind and we need to get it back. The Europeans are going after it and they're using it because the science doesn't care who's African or who's European. As long as you understand the science, you can use it.
And that's the thing. See, science is not bad or good. It's just the intentions on the person who's using it. You know, and unfortunately, we have our science has been taken away from us, and it's being used against us, right? And they left us with belief and superstition. They got us afraid. They got us scared. They got us thinking some white dude with a white robe is gonna come out of the sky with a thunderbolt in his hand. You know, they got us thinking that. Why they down here just using science to eradicate us, to steal our natural resources. You know, all just the whole 9 yards. But and that's what we're up against. We're up against superstitious believers that believe in more of a superstition than they do actually what's actually happening. You know what I mean? So, and I feel like it's bled into the African spiritual systems. And I don't know that much about Rastafari. I don't. I'm you know what I'm saying? I'm learning from you. I'm learning from you, brothers. You know what I mean? I don't know that much about it. But from what the Empress is telling me and from what I'm hearing you guys speak of, it seems like it has been infiltrated by a European paradigm, like a European way of viewing things. And I don't think it originated. I don't think it was originally meant to be that way, from what I'm hearing. You know what I mean? So,
well, you see, Rastafari began as the Maroons. You were the Maroons who dwelled in the hills. You know, And we had great spiritual teachers that taught about the herbs and all the different things in the hill. We used to come down and read the plantations in the Caribbean, and go off with some of the women, and sometimes, like in Jamaica, we made a deal with the colonizers, to not to return the slaves that escaped, to return them. Sometimes they never did, sometimes they did, so they didn't have a too good relationship with the Europeans, but the Europeans had to respect them because they knew the art of guerrilla fighting well. Taki, when you have Taki, when you have Paul Bogle, all these were revolutionaries. It was more leaning on our Kumina,
Yes.
our Congolese, and true African systems and orishas. Because if you know about the Haitian Revolution, it was these same African deities that we went back to. So that is prevalent in the entire Caribbean. But what happened is, because of the control they had over the enslaved, knowledge was not disseminating, and there were many different nations of African people couldn't speak the same language. That's why in Jamaica, I think it was one of the brothers of Nani. I don't know if it's Kujo, but one of them made sure that everyone in the encampment in the Maroon village spoke English, because they already learned English from the enslavers, and all of them could communicate with each other. Okay, so that kind of thing happened in the Rastafari movement, and in a lot of movements that added European saints into the whole pantheon of deities. So we began to shift from political revolutionary movement to a political. That's what happened with Watu and Emmanuel Charles Edwards. The two of them took Rastafari on a different levels of a churchical, the Nyabingi, and also the Bobo Shanti. So these were both churchical orders. But
are they considered tribes? Two different tribes?
And the 12 tribes are biblical, and the Highly Church of Haile Selassie are biblical. But Rastafari have the core, a real Rastafari is the liberation philosophy. But you do get branches, what we call houses. So when he spoke about Prince Emmanuel, he's the one that created the Boba Shanti order, the one where priest Isaac is initiated under.
Oh, okay.
Right? But there is always real Rasta in the world, but what has happened now? Rastafari actually now in 2022, it broke down. Because the Bible Rasta actually broke down the real everything. We lose houses everywhere. We lose, then lick down Shasha Marley, then Rita the Marleys take back one of our main Nyabingi centers in Jamaica, Scotch Pass, right? We lose Upper England, then we have Rasta House. We lose the whole of Rasta House. Myself run Fairfield House for about 3 years. Now it run by just the council. Like, You know, the Bible Rasta put things in a shambles, without realizing it. Yeah, and but you always have, because
It's
Rastafari,
like all the it's like all the
all the houses. Go ahead, sister.
it's like all the important landmarks have been all the important landmarks, Khufu, have been destroyed. Because we can always have another discussion on breaking down the different Rastafari, but we need to just stay on the topic of why we're here tonight. All the major landmarks have been destroyed. You understand what I'm saying? They lost their liberation, revolutionary spirit. Rastafari did not start
Yeah.
out with this Bible thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Over the years, it devolved into that.
Yeah, because
And this is what you see right now.
Yeah, because a good point here is Jamaica in general and have a revolutionary heritage. So, there's been, like, you have the Marcus Garvey, as I mentioned, the Maroons and certain things, but I wouldn't even, the Maroons are another story altogether still. But Rastafari started on a Bakawa, and it's a liberation thing. So I expect when it comes to a discussion with Rasta and the Bible, well, the core have to be respected. Yeah, which is where the first generation take it, which is them start by burning the Bible, and we're gonna continue. Yeah, obviously we know that there's branches, but we know by intuition, logic, and knowing, if we come up back to the same reasoning, we would know. See, like the reason why we are review right now should have come to the point where we can actually use our intuition and common sense and have some kind of agreement, Simple. Coming.
Yeah, well, that is why we reason.
No, I'm just.
Yeah.
That's why we reason.
Yeah, it should have to come to that, especially with a priest present and two priests present and them man who deal with law. It should be we should definitely have come to a better conclusion than that.
That's
You can't tell me you're running a program for so much and then mute my mic when me start to talk and then allow me and then tell me don't talk about race. That's opposite to Marcus Garvey. So what happened is the Bible racists now, they want to push Marcus Garvey away. So if you mention Marcus Garvey, if you mention race first, you get thrown out. So that's how you know the difference of the real Rasta. A real Rasta will have the Marcus Garvey. Yeah, a real Rasta will not use to validate Haile Selassie through the Bible. Haile Selassie don't need no Bible validation. Him just is willingness. Like people see him and say, "Oh, when you went to America, they say I'm an international statesman." We don't need Bible to experience Selassie. People see him, a man point a gun on him and drop. A man drive it. It's simple things like real history in a UN meeting. So he just is who he is. And you don't need to pretty up the thing about a Bible descended from the sky and in turn back a plane and stupidness like that. I would try to milk him in the Bible. This is stupidness. This is all hocus pocus, in my view. And it's to what Rastafari really is. So when Rastafari come together, I would expect it easy to straighten that out. Because the original order would not be reliant on the Bible. So I just read something there, the essay, which shows that a Baba majority, to be honest. It's hard to find real hardcore Rasta right now. That's because, and especially because they're there, but they step up at the front line because them other people take over. That's why everything crashed. So irrelevant. That's why in that reason there regarding the Bible, it should have been a 1-2. Should have been able to come to a conclusion. Like how we reason here today, having a review. Sister niggas make everyone talk. And just like that, everyone should have reason. Even you could have even invite them to ask them 2 more questions, like the deal that you were trying to have with the elder and this and that, and some question we would ask, or some question they might don't want to ask. Or everybody get to close off like how a proper reason would happen. If a priest and intellects about and people who are trying to Rastafari who have a certain amount of knowledge, where take 2 minutes to come out, they should give the time. You shouldn't just mute my mic. I mean, man, you get mute as well. I see him cut off. That's why I had to say something. I had to say I don't see that this about fear. Because 1 minute you say you're coming back around to everyone, then you just say, I'm going to close the show now. Jalas, can you say something?
Yeah, that's the child's play. That's child's play.
And I feel sorry for Jaseek on one level because I can see it in his eyes. You know, we've been miseducated. We've been terribly miseducated. And then this miseducation down our DNA.
So he was muting your mic?
Yeah, he muted my mic. And that's when he said, oh, I have been doing hosting for years. And how could you accuse me of being biased and all of this stuff? You know, your black turban on a Sunday, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And in the Tiger Temple, when I'm on a lion, and so I say, yeah, I'm in a, why the man mute me? I'm in a Tiger Temple when I'm on a lion. Rasta associated with lion. You know, Chinese astrology. We need to understand our own self first.
Wow.
So we are run go in a different thing. That's why we when we Rastafari already we should have stand Kofa. We should have stand Kofa with oneself, with parents, with grandparents. We're supposed to deal with reality. You understand? That's the Rasta that people respect. Yeah? And we supposed to straighten things out. And a nation that, even Haile Selassie said, a nation that can't take criticism won't reach nowhere. So even if they was following Haile Selassie, and the whole knowledge would have brought us right. Rasta is using all of our knowledge that we get intuition and research. If we're using it properly, we should have been able to have a reason that even could have continued into a series of reason to, you know, and then programs come after that. You know, like it should have been more. When you have so many minds together, it shouldn't be passa. It shouldn't be cutting off.
Yeah, right. Priest Isaac has a platform to do all of that. Has the platform to do all of that you just said, but he do that. He likes just the way it is. He likes the cosplay and the circle of snake business that he's dealing with. It's obvious what he's dealing with. That's why was at platform 4 times. You talking about a work in progress? And you're supposed to be a priest for how many years? Committed priests take 40 years to even reach that heights. And you got, because you have to know the knowledge, you have to have that certain levels of knowledge and wisdom. This is not a plaything. They playing around with this priest thing. You understand? Anybody can just get the money and get priest.
Now we know we have Nyabingi priests that don't know how to read it.
This is a waste of time. Sorry, they wasted my time. And I knew it was going to be a waste of time. I told you that, Khufu. I told him exactly what was going to go down.
Oh my gosh. Because His Majesty said, read voraciously. Marcus Garvey said, read as much as you can. If you stand up on a line, you should have a pamphlet in your pocket. If you sit down on a bus, you should have a little booklet. Read as much as you can. And the Ras is afraid of books.
They only read.
When I come out of my tree, and because I came from a tradition, and my elder that's been in the tradition has many books. So all that literature was passed to me, and I still have my own literature, and so I have a lot of books. So when I come out and I see the reception, Rasis just walk straight past that. You'll find persons that are not Ras.
Oh my God.
Rastafari, but are, inquisitive and want to learn. They'll come around and they'll ask questions and talk. Even police officers would come and ask questions and say, yeah, Ras, yeah man, good stuff. And the Rasis would pass straight. The Rasis are afraid of books. It's sad to say, but the Rasis are afraid of books. And we know we have to re-Africanize ourselves through the words of our ancestors. It's not just calling an ancestor name. You cannot call somebody's name and you don't even know them. So we have to read their works, read as much as we can, because hundreds of years we were prevented from reading. So right now we have to read them, not only books on history, all different books. We have to start grooming our children, point them in certain directions. From a child, have them playing musical instruments. Give them certain books, see where their interests lie, and empower them in that direction. But our whole system, we cannot even decide on what to teach in our Rastafari schools. We cannot teach Adam and Eve in our Rastafari schools. We have to talk about Dignish. We have to talk about the different archaic humans and how we created divinity. We created the concept of the divine through the synchronizations and the observations by our ancestors. And we know we need to teach the youth the proper thing. And I think because Christianity is an individualized, because Christianity is the heartbeat of capitalism. Because individualism is what fuels capitalism. And
you know something?
Yeah, go through it.
You know something that brought to my attention that you mentioned. Yeah, they did take reading away from us, right? They took our language, they took our culture, they took our sacred sciences, they took everything away from us, right? But one book that they allowed the slaves to read was the Bible. Notice that. Notice how we couldn't read no other language, we couldn't read no other books, we couldn't speak our native tongue, but the book that they would let us read was the Bible. And till this day, when you go to jail, the main book they hand you is a Bible. It's like, why is it that, back when our ancestors was in slavery, that was probably the only book we could read. They allowed us to go to church. They allowed us to go to church. First it was the white man reading it to us. He would read the Bible to us, right? And then later on, as the physical slavery came to an end, and then they brought in the mental slavery, right? That's when they taught us the Bible, and they taught us Christianity. And so how can that be a good book when the same people who beat the knowledge of self out of you introduced this to you? You know what I mean? Like, so how can that be? And I don't know if people look at it like that. Like, and then people take this book and be like, okay, this is the word of God. This is the truth. Everything in here is the truth. I believe everything in this book. And this is how the earth was created. And this is how the earth's going to end. Like, how can you put that much? And then, like I said earlier, some of the books ain't even in there. There's books that's not even that the Pope took out of the book, So how can, just really think about that. How can you sit around and just like put all your faith in this and dilute such a beautiful culture like Rastafari, such a beautiful culture, such a beautiful thing? How can you bring something so poisonous into that mix like that?
There is a false power in superstition. There is a false power in superstition. So a lot of them go for the superstition because the amount of knowledge that is out there, and the brethren seem to start all over again. Forget Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. All these guys never existed. When you tell the brethren that, and the brethren carrying that for 20, 30 years. And telling them they had to go back and learn. Talking about Medu nature. What's that? They never heard that before. Medu what? That's the writing on the Merakut. The Mero what? So these guys starting to see, but how are they're dead before they even learn a piece of what he's saying there. So they'll stick to their own thing. But we have to inspire them to learn again. Because learning is life here. Learning is living. So we have
He
to
said, I only
encourage.
speak English. I can't read the metadata. English is the only thing I know.
Well, that's because they were colonized by England. That's why you speak English.
That's ignorance.
Yeah, so you have to now learn an African language that will put you on an African paradigm. So then you can read.
And he was comfortable. He was comfortable in his ignorance. He was
But
comfortable in it.
I can also,
No, but the Bible said that anything you tell a wise man should make him wiser. Right?
now I'll tell you something too. Having Rastafari on a biblical levels, making Haile Selassie a universal God, qualifies the European to enter into the inner chambers of Rastafari. Because Haile Selassie is the universal God of everyone. He's returned Jesus Christ.
No.
So when the European seeing that, well, that's their God too. So their Rastafari, you shall be called by his name, and Rastafari shall cover the world like water covers the sea. Now, all these different aspects of the biblical narrative we throw in the soup, and we're spoiling the whole thing. We're spoiling it because we're allowing foreign infiltration with foreign ideas. And the European coming with their ego, and it's just like the mulatto. The mulatto sometimes want to prove that he's more African and more black than you. So they develop that ego. Because once I remember a European told me, I'm not a Rasta. I told him, how come? He said that he lives in Ethiopia. He speaks Amharic. He's married to an Ethiopian woman. So I live in the West. I don't even speak Amharic. So how can I be a Ras like him? A European, I think a German talking to me like that, So that is to show you our own doctrine, our own dogma is working against us.
The arrogance.
Yeah.
Very arrogant.
Yes.
The same way that European thought he can come in the chat talking about, and where was he at, in Chile or somewhere? Yeah, he thought, and then he came in there thinking he had something to say, and I just took offense to that. I felt like that wasn't that he was out of place for even being there. You know what I mean? And
well, remember the Tiger's Temple is a $10, I think a 10 US entrance fee. So I don't know if that was still standing. And the poor brethren, he pays 10 US and he expect to be let in. And, and sit in, But then, they come with their zealousness, and we know they cannot understand the thing. They all cannot understand the thing. The thing is a thing of rhythm. A thing of rhythm. The European don't have rhythm.
Yeah, but he interrupted at the wrong point. When we mentioned, the sister mentioned DNA, and I went to mention that he's not after the I pick him up.
Ras Baraka, I say that thing like this is a melanated meeting there. I say, yeah.
Your audio is breaking up, Baraka.
Yeah, but I love that. I love that. It was a melanated meeting.
It was, and that's what I thought I was invited to.
Yeah.
So when we mention things with family trauma, and then someone in the family said no, because this, we've been through, people who've been through constant in the liberation know that this, we not accept someone to tell we about what we have to deal with.
Man.
We have to take our control of our own minds.
That can't work.
Right? You cannot influence I and I. Yeah? I and I have a self-determined I and I self. Yeah? I and I identity is African. So I and I thinking, like Marcus Garvey to us, is it has to be centered around Africa. You understand? Everything. So don't come and tell me how our DNA has been affected by this thing, because he's not affected by it like we.
No,
Yeah,
no.
he's white as snow and all these things. The Bible talk good of, the white as snow and this and that, and the King James, the Batman Bible version where they read, because King James is a Batman. Why would a Rastaman want to touch anything where Batman give you? Yeah, is that? Why would even a Batman put in there that Batman could put to death?
Yeah, and they call it holy too. They call it holy.
Yeah, and then but the thing is, they even Rastaman even I get stick from Batman saying that because Rastaman I repeat what the Bible said, so Batman be dead, which is true. But here I say, they must say it, and I big stick from Batman to say what the Bible said. Why they never shut down the Bible then? When I'm doing a symposium in the Greenwich University, and they come and ask me, "Oh, if Batman can come and I have him." No, because Rastafari is a progressive movement. We don't deal with that.
Rastafari is a secret society.
Yeah.
Rastafari is
there you go. You have to be initiated.
ESP McPherson. That's what ESP McPherson was talking about. Rastafari, the Kumina, that was a secret society.
Yes.
And they tried to burn out Joseph Nathaniel Hebert for his Masonic practices and lighting of candles. And even though they burned him out, they still ended up falling back into the mystery system, the secret society order, because that's what Rastafari was. But we started to beat drums and just perform the ritualistic spirit possession in the Nyabingi house. But there was no form of disseminating African knowledge, and because His Majesty said in the in the bylaws of the Ethiopian World Federation, which I was a chaplain, it says that it is there to disseminate ancient Ethiopian culture. And in the Ethiopian World Federation, no European is allowed. And nothing discussed in our meetings can leave that meeting here. That the whole design of the Ethiopian World Federation is an order for liberation. But Rastafari hold it and they turn it to a church thing again.
Yeah, but EWF right now is defunct. Like the conference already defunct that, right? Yeah. And not only that, the same thing again. So we get everyone moving towards this another colonization into Christianity again, right? Rasta don't follow His Majesty like that, right? Rasta don't. It's like if you did, then Rasta would have eat meat. I just eat the food of the Ethiopians. You'd have lions, in your palace. We're not that. But we choose Haile Selassie. Understand? We see Haile Selassie as the Almighty. He is an African God. He's not universal God. Africa come from. So it's African God. You see? And in the ancient Kamawu, the Farai leader is the Almighty. When you see the Farai, you see the Pharaoh is seen as the Almighty. Some might disagree, but that is prominent right across Africa and right across the Kamawu culture. So it is right. It actually it says on the scripture that it opened the 14th gate of the subconscious.
Now in the book by Sheikh Anta Diop, he speaks about the Farai.
Yeah, that's where
Farai is the Pharaoh.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And it shows you as well, if you look at the Malachi Zedek's book coming forth by they are Ra'un Nefa Nuk Auneter, it shows you say Rasta. The word Rasta or Rasta is the gateway to the other world.
yes, man. Yes. That's the Giza Plateau. That's the land of
Yeah,
Rasta.
so they would know, and remember, even in the veneration of Wsir, it talks about it's chanting there the King of Kings. So there will be a lot for Rastafari to have a more stronger theology in reality, you know, a new faculty, yeah, right, burning out, definitely holding the best of the ancients and burning out all of the things that have caused that went wrong. Because we can into it and figure them out. And reviewing that show is a typical example of, we getting nowhere. And it's the wider community still too, because religion is running a wreck in everywhere. The man talk about Israel, and he named the program. First, when I got the invite, it said the biblical land of Israel. And what am I talking about? That I went on when you're biblical land. I can't. What is this? Israel have your war fighting and sitting. I'm gonna talk about Israel extend to Egypt, man. Done the Israel thing. Israel is a politics star. Let's be a politician. We now need to use the word, because everybody claim them are Israelite and chosen people. All the queens say they're Israelite, they're England. They say they're Israel. The Pope say him off in the line of Israel. Everybody say it comes like as a government tool. It's a political tool. And I look last year I do politics. And if a Christianity govern for him thing, he's going to turn up on Christmas and make a speech. And if they make him the defender of the faith, he's going to do him duties. Simple things. You don't have to say, His Majesty saying glorify, and that means, but also His Majesty will fight if we find it necessary, and say other things too. Then twist around His Majesty that when you say until the philosophy which will run through, but who am I talk to? Him I talk to them.
Yeah.
Right? So the way them expect Rastafari reason about the Bible or any topic. Yeah, even if we disagree, and people are getting mute, cut off, and just views not bias. You're not supposed to go like that, simple like that. Even if knowledge is shared and this and that, and there is disagreement, because we know lions and lions, not tigers and lions. Because the lion is indigenous to Africa. And it helped the thought of Rastafari. So I don't know, when we lion now, it reminds us the indigenous sadness to Africa. Rasta original concept is fine. We don't need the Bible.
But he has a buffer. If you check the science, there's a buffer.
Mm-hmm.
And he's using that buffer. That buffer is like a shield. You have to hit maybe a couple of times before it damage, And that buffer is the Boboras that they're shifting for nothing. He's reading his Bible. And everything in the Bible is true. That's the black man history book, the Bible. So when you have a man like that in a conversation, say, that conversation will not go anywhere.
Yeah, but Baba said something on the program I was listening to last night, and I really did want him to go into it, right? He mentioned very, very slightly that, what was it again?
Take an next draw that hope it will come back, man.
Yeah. Yeah, but that reason there was
called a brain fog.
Yeah, no, it's like it was a powerful thing that I said, right? Regarding Yeah. So for example now, and Sister Niggas have made the similar point, which is now we brought same way. We downtrodden same way. And everything in this book, everything in this book actually I keep it down. I mentioned it earlier too. We needed to go through that reason and conclude our point.
Yes.
Yeah, because then it would have been a more balanced, upful reasoning. And with something and the generation now of Rastafari that exists and ones who want to know whether we are move forward with this or not, they can sit there and listen to that balanced reasoning and use their own intuition. Because everyone is mature out there and change never happen within. And the unity that we see is based around how well we identify and our interests. And then come these ideologies.
Because the elder would have fumbled. I felt it already. Khufu. The elder was fumbling. But Jasik, Jasik, ego fumble. Jasik will quote his Bible. Now the elder is on a different level, so he'll fumble. He'll because I noticed him. He didn't know really what to say because there was so much fact. It was what he was saying was facts, and in a way he was backing you up, but he was trying to be careful, because I'm sure he's compromised in many ways, when it comes to them things. But
that's what I was saying.
Chris Isaac balanced the thing with a man you can reason with, and the next man you can't reason with at all. Now that man you can't reason with at all, he had no right really to be on the show because we all know what he'll say and what he'll do. He'll just pick up the Bible, he'll just quote a thing, and that's it for him. It stops there.
Yeah.
You know?
And he's giving him signals too. He's going, yeah, man, I'm bringing you in, man. But he never said that to me. He never said that to you. And we listen, we are yard man. We know what that means. It means tell the
That's
man.
What I'm talking about. That's the challenge I was talking about. The circle of snakes.
Not in front of me. Don't
the
talk like
circle of snakes.
Nah. That's a bad move there. So I'm smelling the bias.
That was.
Yeah, he
That
didn't.
was the child's play I'm talking about.
Yeah, he definitely didn't.
I don't know if Mike is clear or not.
But we have to
have these meetings.
Clear. The meetings we have to have these meetings, this reasoning to come to a conclusion. We can't just come talk, give up our energy, because while we're giving our energy, he's taking notes. And he'll sleep on it, and he'll come back with something to
counter, to try to counter it.
Try to counter it, but during the meeting itself, he won't give his views.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I was peeping that out. I was paying close attention to that. He was trying to learn our perspective without revealing his. Yeah. You see what I mean? Yeah. That's why he wouldn't let me break apart the elders' information. He wouldn't let me dissect it. He wouldn't let me, what I mean, get too deep into that.
You see, it's not like Sun Tzu, the art of war. It was the art of love, sharing and learning, not the art of war. To be subversive and no, we share what we know to come to a conclusion, because what we really want and we are seeking for is the truth. No matter who it hurts, no matter who it burns, but we want the truth. That's what we've been seeking for.
Right.
That's what we want.
Something else I noticed? The one guy, I don't remember his name. The brother who had the red, black, and green flag behind him. That guy right there was just like like I told the Empress earlier.
Jealous.
He was like an answering machine, a voice recording. Like he just kept saying the same. Like, but see, that's what the Bible do to you. You can't your information is limited. You can only go by what these scriptures say. You can't even. It's so much more information outside of those scriptures, you know. But he just kept saying, he kept giving him more time than everybody else. It seemed like it seemed like he gave him more time than Brother Baraka. He gave him more time than Wsir. I only heard you say you only had an intro. You didn't even he put you way to the back of the shelf. He didn't even want to hear nothing you had to say. You know what I mean? And so it's kind of like he was kind of like giving his peoples a little more time to basically say the same repetitive thing. Like they really wasn't bringing anything new to the table. You know what I mean? And I just felt like that guy he just gave him, you know, way more time than he gave anybody else. Maybe because, you know, that fits his narrative. You know what I mean? So maybe that's why he did that. But that was somebody else that was like kind of like, I felt like, what's his purpose? To just say the same thing? Is he like he brought him in to just kind of like, I don't know. It just seemed weird to me that he just kept saying the same. Every time he would come to him, he didn't have no new information. It would be like damn near word for word the same thing he just said the last time. So I just, you know, it was just weird to me. It was just a weird dialogue. You know what I mean?
Well, you see, in Rastafari, we have to understand also as well the oppression and a lot of ignorance. You know, a lot of ignorance. And there are times that we used ignorance and we puffed up our chest in ignorance just to deny the system, you know, to deny intellectuals, to deny organizations. That was a phase Rastafari went through. It had to do with the elders that turned their backs on society. And we got that element of being segregationists. We got that from the Bible, which says to separate yourself. But we are the ones to lead the people to their true African selves. So many of us, we went in the hills and we learned to do many things with our hands. We can make coals, we can do garden, we can do baskets, we can do a lot of things with our hands. We can climb coconut trees, we can use the machete. We know Rastafari, that's one of our powers. But we kind of de-evolved. And then the Pan-Africanists, the rise of the Pan-Africanists now, the intellects, you know, a lot of them still didn't have the revolutionary spirit of the Rastafari, you know. But we had a lot to learn from the Pan-Africanists. And we had a lot to gain from the education system, crooked as it was. So right now, a lot of Rastafari have a lot of ignorance. There's a lot of ignorance in Rastafari, you know. And I'm not saying that to demean Rastafari at all. A lot of Ras, they started to read through the Bible. The Bible is the first book they ever read, you know. And a lot of them are stuck, and because of the superstition of long dread and beard and the power that go in with that, they're happy with that superstition because it grants them that glory and that power. But a lot of them are illiterate and they can't tell you much African history or nothing at all, you know. And not blaming them, but that was the signs of the times they were raised in. So right now it's time to move to another level. You get in resistance, you know. And certain man will tell you, you're not a Ras, as though Rastafari has already reached what we call in the Congo cosmogram Tukala, maturity. We have not reached our maturity as yet. We are still babies. Rastafari is still a baby.
Yeah. Or Itongo, which is a Sar.
Yeah.
You see it? Like we have cosmologies we can use, like Congo, because it linked to the Kumina. We belong to I and I. With Kimpa Vita, carry that energy, the force of Rasta. I heal. Our ancestors are like Naya Bingi from Naya Bingi from Uganda. That is our ancestor. That is our energy. Yeah, it's Kimpa Vita from the Congo. Yeah, that is our energy. Yeah, we love the water. Yeah, we carry forces too. You see what I'm saying? And that them we fi tune into. Leg of them thing there. And that's what the conclusion would have been if we got to conclude. Like I could hear your reasoning, King, and the item reasoning. If you had went round fairly, we would have got to just reason, and probably, I wouldn't have to jump off and interrupt him and say, nah, it's unfair. I wouldn't have to do that because
I reason General Tau Tau. Now Rastafari has the biggest movement in South Africa. 3 million about strong, more than the 5 million. You see, more than the Caribbean, plenty. And we reason with him, and he told me he went to check the oracle, the Ugandan oracle, the Nyabingi oracle. And as far as I know, he's the only Ras that ever go and check the oracle. No. And he also went to study in the Ethiopian church, in the monastery, amongst the monks. And he told me when he began to study, it started to take him so far away from his African culture. He had to put it down and return. So I asked him a very important question. I asked him, has Africans ever fought over God, whose God is better than whose God, because I know Africa has thousands of gods? He said, never. So you can see the creature in the Bible doesn't have anything to do with Africa, because he was a jealous God. And if you praise another God, if you praise a different God, that God would order you to kill these people. You know.
But the Bible tells them, say, ye are gods, but you have to die like men. And it tells you, so there's no God. It's confusing, man. Then that's what been watching YouTube. Because we will have to, haven't they been watching the YouTube and things? Like,
because you have a simple question. How many sons did God have?
Ridiculous.
How many sons did God have? They tell you the sons of God came down and had children with women. Then they tell you God had his only begotten son. So how many sons did God have?
Yeah.
You know, and if God,
there's many contradictions, we would have got the answer.
And then on top of that, they say we're all God's children. So wouldn't that make us God's son too? Not just like, come on now, like that's.
But if you have the Son of God that's on a cross dying, and he says, my God, why have you forsaken me? So why would you think that God will not forsake you? His only begotten Son. He forsook his only begotten. So why would you think that God would not forsake you?
But he's forgetting you. He's in that Bible. You have to wait till after you're dead. So you're gonna suffer. And this is what people must realize. You are suffering under this thing. Yeah, the only one who now suffer, the pastor who take on the money. Right? And drive private jets and justify that God and Jesus tell him to get a Bible jet. No, that's a mockery. They would have realized in a proper reason, we could have concluded, we could have made a proper review where the reasoning could have been rewritten with a priest present and people who ancient and everything. We could have come with a proper academic study there.
Yes, of course. I always ask the brethren, show me a good example of a family in the Bible. a family. Well, you have Lot. Lot slept with his daughters. And God himself took a man's woman to have a child. So, where is the family essence in the Bible?
It's an incense on the man, woman, and the Holy Spirit. I mean, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. No woman. And then Eve blamed for the whole and an incest. Eve blamed for the father, man, when the man should listen. Samson did like all kind of foolishness, man. Listen, too much contradiction. We would have got to the point where Rasta have to leave that, honestly. Or then what they would have to do in the meantime is like follow His Majesty, keep your religion personal. Like don't come on road with that stuff, that belief. Don't come on road with it. Don't write no books. Don't know YouTube. Just keep it personal.
Just that's the philosophy of the Ethiopian World Federation. That all that your requirement is that you have a God. That's all your requirement is in the Ethiopian World Federation. That's all it is. But you know, Rastafari take it over, and a lot of people stay out because they watch it as a Rastafari thing, and so it gets into a next power struggle or between superstitious ones, you know, wanting this superstitious power.
Too much Bible in either way.
Too much the Bible. The Bible is I mean, one book cannot create so much division. One book.
Exactly. Now, there you go. That's one of the reasons why they should let it go, or explain why. Is it that you get people who are intellectual, degree and stuff, and read and get so many different interpretations.
Can you mute your mic because the noise is disturbing?
Yeah, Khufu is playing with his headset.
Some moving going on in the background. I don't know who that is.
Yeah, Khufu was adjusting his headset, so it makes some noise.
That was me. That was my headset.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah. But there's so many contradictions, and there's so many things that don't make no sense, and you can't teach your children that you shouldn't do that, because the Bible have a thing where I would ask them what that mean if they really reflect on that, because this one used to lick me. Woe unto the false teachers that lead the people astray, or that lead the children astray. Now, do they resonate on that Bible scripture? If there's so much into the Bible and they say woe, so do you fear of judgment? Because I definitely chose some bound, because the Psalms also say Psalm 129 given unto the righteous to pronounce the judgment written. Yeah, man, we can chant on it and turn it around to. Yeah? But the I says so many people interpret this for their own. You get one king, I say, in England, I say, oh, I want to marry a second wife, so I'm going to change the little. One man say, oh, I want Batman, and then I'm going to change the little. One man say, oh, if you kill myself in a 2012 in a gas chamber, one man have 100 virgins. Are you involved in that?
Bible.
Bible, Rasta must stay away from it. It shouldn't be on the shelf. When you told them that, that's what man who are researching, using it for academic purposes and these things.
Right? You see, the Bible is a book about a set of people wanting to show themselves to the world to be chosen greater people than everyone else. They use aspects of their history, and they use myths. They use different. They have their God. And that's their story. That's their divination of their culture.
And it's like us having it's like us having that swastika.
An identity crisis. We suffer from an identity crisis.
Yeah.
Because we use the Bible before. If you read about like Chilembwe of South Africa, he used the Bible and he preached with the head of a slave master on the pulpit, you know. So we use the story of the Israelites escaping bondage from the Egyptians. We use that story to free ourselves from that bondage. We use it as a spiritual power. But then if we watch the whole cultural perspective, if you study Diop's theory, the two-cradle theory, the whole cultural perspective of scripture comes from a place of scarcity, robbers and thieves. They're planting nothing. Their God don't like agriculture. He like the hunter. He prefer the offering of the burning flesh. He rather KFC than Ital. It can't be Rastafari God in the Bible. Because all the elements of that culture shows that it's not a civilization. It's people dwelling in the wilderness. There's no temples there. There's only tents. You know. So we take ourselves from the Nile Valley, that's so rich, with culture from all over Africa coming and centralized. 42 different nomes. When the European came to Africa and he saw one god, like Heru or Heru, ruling over 42 nomes. That was very strange. They had never seen something like that before in their life, because they was live such individualistic lives. If you read Diop's pre-colonial Africa, he talks about the European and their civilization. One person could not marry someone from the next village. Their gods were very jealous gods. And all this you can see went into the Bible. So you can see the cultural perspective of the Bible is not an African culture. So if you call yourself African-centered, then you have to go to the center of Africa. You cannot stay on the fringes of Africa and say you're African-centered. You cannot even remain in Kemet. You cannot remain in Ethiopia. These are the fringes. You have to go into the heart of the thing. You go into the Congo, where the Bantu cosmology, in the works of Dr. Fukiao, if you want to really understand Bantu cosmology, you read. You know, that's what we have to be doing, reading and disseminating the information. Do not charge so much money for it. It should be a joy to give the youths back what was stolen to them.
Yes. You know, I would reiterate that as part of a solution. Yeah. Because, you know, I share that similar view thing. Because to a Congo, the thing come from the Bakongo thing, right? The heights, the connection, the Kimpa Vita. Yeah. Same as the Nyabingi.
Yes.
Same energy that we should carry. And this is the only energy that's self-determined and give I and I own mind freeness as African and I own identity and expressing it. So and Congo cosmology is solid because it ties right exactly with Kemet.
Yeah. Now they have
because it matched perfectly from Asar to Itongo, and it just matched just like that. The practices, but one thing about Congo though, remember when the European went there, him said that's the only place he's ever been where him say African can change it to anything they want to be. Written in that thing, you know. So you have to understand that we manage the heights of the heights. I see a Rasta love the heights, Congo, Congo, you see it. So it's all about Rastafari, the Congo and the Bongo, and that heights, that vibration that we love. The signals is there, what the forces that we should be tuning into. By our intuition, by this intuition. Use it. And let's always know that Rastafari is an inborn concept. So we have to just use it and go by the river, continue to tune into the water forces, because I drink the waters, because water has been here all 350 million years. That one solid in your Bible. And drink it. Stop the pipe water, drink some spring water and see what your mind is reflecting now. Stop eat the food then, because the liberty was right. Now look at the foundational things of the liberty, where the Bible not. Then just use one little piece of Genesis to say, yeah, all right, we're not eating no meat. But then some of them use the other part of the Bible and say, yeah, we are going to eat meat. When time the Bible and I catch you. Even though they might catch the man through the eye to see them where the food are spray with all kind of things. We're done with.
Now they have a thing. They have a thing I say when I'm on, because sometimes I'm on the street corner with my tree and my elder there. You know, and sometimes I take the mic and I say, beauty fades and strength is but a moment. Read. Because a lot of times, a lot of people turn to, especially us, we have a knack for becoming fanatics. Like, for instance, the food. The other time we meet a brethren, I was reading a little book, and he came by and he asked me what I was reading. I showed him what I was reading, and then he said to me that, you know, he don't really deal with books anymore, you know, because there was a time when we didn't use books. We just used to, you know, make sounds. We didn't even have words, and we used to speak to each other without words. So I tell him, brethren, it's true what you're saying, you know, but where you learn that? Then he tell me in a book. So I was telling him that you got to be careful, because he was telling me he get his knowledge from ital, from fruits, from herbs. I tell him we have to be careful because we have generations raising you, and the youths, because we are different from the animals. A spider knows how to spin its web, but we must learn. If we raise with wolves, we behave like wolves. So I am very much impacted by our environment, and we are clothed with fabrics of our ancestors and knowledge from the history of our people. So we have to be very careful about when we speak of knowledge, and as His Majesty said, education. Because if you go in certain places in Africa, there is no way you can tell someone to be a vegetarian. Because there are places like the Kalahari and desert places where that's practically kind of impossible to tell these people that, you know. So the human body is in the process of adaptation. Like they say, everything vibrates. It's adapting, and right now we want to fast food, a lot of fast food, and even if we don't check ourselves, our bodies will adapt to that fast food. But take for instance something like fish. Fish is something the African has been eating for so long. His body has adapted to it from a long time. Now, to change the body, to put it on a different frequency, that is going to take some time. And some people might even get sick for the adaptation of all this that happens. Because our environment really is from what we get, our culture, our spirituality, our food, the way we think, everything. That's why when they steal our resources, they're actually stealing part of our spirituality. And that power they take from the ground, they take it in there to their place that has none of that power, and they create wealth. And they create things and they sell it back for us. And that is all our spiritual power, you know. All these
I pray, man. I think what happened is we have this force, right? So even as the Empress Wsir, Christianity before Christ, it makes sense because the same type of story, the same cosmology is definitely. So if people really, if really they did want to embrace the word Christianity, then could I look on it like how you see the Canaanites then would look on it. So they might look on Egypt as that same story where they have with Jesus and something. And the same story has been told in every culture. Everybody telling the same type of story. Sheba story is the same. Mitra, all of them, all the gods and Greeks and things. And remember the thing one would I like with all in that program as well. With Priest Isaac, would I like them to look how many times Egypt has been invaded. Like that place has been invaded so many times. Right. I don't want to quote wrong, but it's probably the most invaded country. Like the man come, one take it over, this one take it over. Vatican have a large collection, right? And everywhere, England, Belgium, everywhere have France. They have a large collection.
Yeah, everywhere have a piece.
Right? So how they get so much thing and why it's so important to them and we are run from it? You know? They need to see that the Europeans them run, they build their cities off of Egyptian philosophy and cosmology. So why wouldn't they look at that? Because Egypt then, if it was to look at Christianity then, or Christianity type religion or way of life, it would be, first, along the Nile Valley there. And that's where we have to go follow the Nile Valley with our zealousness, because you're right, there's zealousness. And I reckon it comes from when we say the word power, Jah, Rastafari, because I draw for you because Mr. Medinetta Valley 7 will show you all of the mantras then where to do with Jah are associated to Heru. When you check the Indus Kush culture, the Indus, because we taught the Indus Kush culture and the Chinese very well, and they preserved it. So even though Egypt's been destroyed so many times, that's how scholars like Raoul Neferman more or less would be able to find some of the missing pieces them from the Indus Kush culture.
Now, speaking of Raoul Neferman, I remember a while back talking to Ndongo Harry Kafre. He was a high priest in the Kemetic, the Kemetic order. Older than Raoul Nefer in it, because Raoul Nefer I place more as a synchronist than an individual going deep into African culture. I'm not saying that he's not powerful; he's very powerful.
Look,
he comes across like Muata Ashby.
Muata Ashby, all right. They're scholars of Kemet. But Raoul Neferman, definitely, you could look into him a bit more. He's crowned a battler, so he's been crowned in Nigeria. He know the Ifa tradition, so he know everything about Ifa. He know Chinese acupuncture and astrology. So when they talk about tiger and this and tiger and that, he must go into Bazi. Raoul Neferman actually I want top scholar, and we tell us that he burn them. Because the thing then, like for example, volume 1 explains things like why the Europeans, because you were saying making a good point, but the thing why Europeans behave like that with this individual is like their left side brain. That's why we come in and everything with them and do this word. And a politician will come and say, yo, and then people will sit down and say, no sir, I'm only doing my job. And then while them violate your rights, you get new linguistic programming and thing, and this individual thing. But we're in the original now, in a Kemet that would be called set. When I think they tried to call you set.
Yeah. They call me
set. Huh?
They call me set, but the set protects Ryan. Set is the autoimmune system.
Well, once you get control of your mind,
your audio messed up. Wsir.
They got it. Sorry? You were saying?
What was that, sister?
Come in, niggas.
I think she said one.
No, I was started. Every time you start speaking, your audio is going in and out. It's like delaying your words.
Maybe it could be sometimes on your end, because I think all of us hear each other clearly, but sometimes you delay your speech is kind of delayed, and sometimes you end up talking together with other people only because there's a delay on your end. I don't know if everybody else see it like that.
It's StreamYard.
Yeah.
StreamYard
Sometimes
is doing
StreamYard.
that. Maybe the person that opens the discussion, maybe that happens to them. I don't know.
Yeah, like even now you're breaking up.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
even
Wow.
but
now
it's
you were
going
just
smooth on
breaking
our
up
end
when you
though,
were just
sister.
explaining. That was
Yeah,
breaking up.
yeah. On our end, it's going smooth.
Okay.
Okay, but much as I would like to stay, I have
Yeah,
to lay down. I got to get up early in the morning.
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah,
I
that's
would
right.
love to continue this. I would love to continue this discussion when we can, get the Empress to organize it again. Um, yeah, because I feel like we need a part two to this. You know what I mean? So I basically have to cut out and lay myself down so I can get up early in the morning. But
Yes,
it's
respect.
always an honor speaking with you brothers and the Empress. Give thanks, and I'll definitely be looking forward to the next time we build. And you guys have a blessed night, and I'll be talking to you soon.
Yes.
Yes, I. Jennifer, Uncle Justin.
All right.
Just
Have a blessed night.
all right, thank you.
I think, yeah, that's a good footing for the start, wrap up for real.
Yeah, yeah. As well, what I'm looking forward to is connections being made and organization hubs being set up, connecting with ones like um, Baba Smalls, Mfundishi Jehotimas, and have a uh, hubs in the Caribbean as well as in North America and also in South America, Central America. We have different hubs, especially where we have majority African people.
The thing is, with I love to focus on education, where because a long time Rasta going, we didn't have a school for no
Yeah.
one, and not only that, where we lack education, even and training our own self, we so ignorant. Where as much as the education paved the way to love and fosters understanding. So I'm feeling the gap in our education, as you were saying, when we didn't know we weren't allowed to read, and the gap in our education, also pass on, and we have missed the point, So we have to really educate, and then we need counseling, probably every single one of us. We need our professional, as you say, in our hubs, in our community, in our black way, somehow we need to go through certain things in our life.
Okay.
That this Sankofa, because we Sankofa even our own mind, and the mind of our grandparents, and the mind of our parents, and that we do. And you can clearly see man with zealous they talk about the Bible with the eye in the camera like that. Like it did alarm us. That's why there's some mental issue in when I see what was going on in that program, and it's sad. I feel it for Jalas and thing, Jasik, and
Yeah, man.
we feel it for some of the warriors.
Man, it's just sad. That's why I said I don't think he should be on the program, and because you can't bring the brethren out to look foolish, Dre. Don't do the brethren that. You can't bring the brethren out to look foolish. And I know Chris Isaac is a man of intellect. Come on. Don't do the brethren that, You bring somebody that have a discussion that knows some history, maybe read some books, so we can have a real intellectual discourse, Yeah. But I want to seal up with just a little paragraph. One of my favorite books. It says, say then the multitude is noisier after the shaking, shattering knowledge of the pale road of death. Are your eyes also dead? This noise is not the recent uniform cacophony of death victorious, death alone ruling. Now the customary noises of triumphant death have the tone of lies to some of our ears. In such a season, the voice informed with knowledge of the way, that voice whose utterance is inseparable from life, that voice will be heard. For there are ears straining against the loud nonsense of the destroyers, ears that have heard all the sweet and easy sounds of death and found them false. Would you lock your gift away in pallid silence? Know then that in the absence of the utterer's work, the carnage will be long and pure, and not the wisest mind can, in the absence of the utterer's work, tracing all our flowings, is in all our flowing blood, even one broken ring of meaning. For those returning, salvaging blistered cells from death, and those advancing, still hypnotized by death in the absence of the utterer's work, what will they be but beasts devouring beasts, zombies fighting zombies, a continuation along the road of death in place of regeneration, the rediscovery of our way, the way. Leave the killers, spokesmen, the predators, spokesmen. Leave the destroyers, spokesmen, to cast contemptuous despair abroad. Not in our vocation. That will not be our utterance. Yeah, I'll seal with that.
Aye, King.
Ras Baraka.
Sister niggas. Well, we give thanks. Give thanks to the reason, King. So
yeah, give thanks, Rastafari. Blessed.
When the next time we reason, obviously, not a different title. We'll go into something like we love touching with some heights with the eye regarding Rastafari, share some studies like ideally the Rastafari studies and important for the generation now actually just know the realness of it and not just hear, and actually look at the thing in general and a whole and see how
next time I'll bring my elder. Next time I'll bring my teacher because I had a tutor, and so I was introduced to a lot of literature very early. And it's he that took me out of the Bible many years ago and showed me my African history, Dr. Ben. Because he went to Jamaica and he wanted to find out more about why the Rasses, where he came from, destroyed the band, his reggae band. Because they said they're doing away with the instruments of band and they're going back to the drums. And so he went to the Bingi in Jamaica in the 80s trying to find an answer. And when he got there, he saw the Bingi flourishing with money from the reggae singers. So then he started to ask questions and they told him, Abdullah, you're not an African Ras. You're a Bible dread. And they made him listen to Dr. Ben for the first time in his life. And he learned there were people before Adam and Eve. And that blew his mind. And he just began to search and seek and seek and seek. So he was one of the first Rasses on the island of St. Louis.
Yes.
So I will make you reason with him and you all will go, because we have to write a book on the history of Rastafari in St. Lucia. So I will.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
you'll reason with him and you all could go.
Well, that's a good perspective that we can. I can ask him. We can tell me about that. That's a good.
Yeah, man.
I know people hear that. That's a thing where there's a missing gap. That's what we need. Warriors to come, fill the gap and make it easy and accessible for, as you say, in a hub for the education for pass. And we definitely have filled time. I wouldn't want nobody to come in and say, yes, the salvation, the way to salvation is the Bible. Like what we heard last time. It's appalling. That's not the way to salvation.
It's sad.
Yeah, it's not the way to salvation.
So is there any final words? Is there any final words that you want to say concerning Sunday? Because we didn't really
we was touching on some other stuff. We didn't really touch on what we were supposed to be touching on. We talking about the letter
Well,
J and all that other stuff. So is
yeah,
there
yeah,
anything
because
that you want to
no,
finally say?
yeah,
You felt like that discussion. All right, go ahead. I'm not even finished saying what I'm saying, but go ahead.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, what I was saying is the reason why we went there is
Done.
because
I'm done. If you have anything else you want to add on to it.
yeah, Sunday, yeah, we kind of stealing up now. That's what we just said. You know, the reason why there was a reason why we went there. I know we might have been breaking up on your side, but it's around the Bible, the philosophy them, because these are the things where Rasta confuse ourselves about whether there's a J here or a J not. And if we let it go, we're saying that there's somewhere we can go. There's many ways we can go. We have Africa. Africa is large, and the eye suggests the center of Africa, and we talk, that's why we are also trying to, even though we're reviewing what happened on Sunday, and we realize, yeah, it never upful. I never find it upful, you know. But you know, things happen in life, you know. That
Well, I
Yeah,
think
so
it
that's
was,
what I'm saying is there.
yeah, what I'm saying is like Sunday it was like of a repartee. We didn't grab we didn't grab anything that anyone was saying, dissected it, pass it
yeah,
around, inspect it, pass it around, and say, okay, that's it. And so we just had people just saying things, they falling on the ground, other people saying things, falling
yes,
on the ground. So it should have, you see, that is in the hands of the moderator, you know, to take something someone says and dissect it, pass it around, dissect it, and come
yes,
to a conclusion on the matter. But that's not what happened. So it was a kind of offbeat, you know. But what I would like to say is that we should have a program on what is to replace the Bible. Like you said, you mentioned a book, the Wsir. The Wsir is a book that can be placed instead of the Bible.
there's loads of things. Yeah,
You know, we have the poem Heru. You know, the pyramid text. We have so much literature. You know, we can put on the altar for the youths to come and study and read. So it can't be a divisive book. You know, because it's strange that black people usually, except if it's not bacchanal, they usually gather and unite under banners of division, political banners, religious banners, you know, even class banners, you know. So what is going on right now is to inspire the youth. I always think of the youth, to inspire the youth to seek, to not stop seeking and seek for truth, you know, and inspire different hubs of certain persons, because we have to face it, not everyone have the calling to read. Read is something that you acquire with practice, you know, the love of reading. Not everyone has it. So those that have it need to be instrumental in disseminating the information, whether we have to start back writing again our journals, wherever we are disseminating literature, we have to start back being active as Rastafari, you know. So that new light coming from Kemet will actually rejuvenate the seeking and the searching, and will stop regurgitating things we heard from the 70s, you know. So it will be like a reanimating the body of Rastafari with Kemetic and Bantu cosmology. And that's a beautiful thing. And there's so many different, because I do scepters like the Was scepter, you know, one of the Was, the Ankh, the Jed. I did scepters out of wood, you know, and the soul, because what inspires knowledge is curiosity. Now, symbols always inspire curiosity. So we could use different elements of that. In the Wajet with the different fractions of the different senses, how to use all this knowledge into our organizations, into our business, how to use eloquence and speech and poetry. We have a lot. We have a lot. But we need to be well studied, and that's the thing. But with that, Uncle Jasuneb, Duawu, Nature, and give thanks. Ras Baraka. It was nice meeting the eye. The eye is a powerful brethren.
I give thanks, King. Like, I see that in the eye, same way, King.
And I'm hoping that you shine your light. Dr. Fuki, I would say we're all sons. And sometimes sons get weak. And other sons need to come and recharge, So hopefully that in your area, you're shedding your light and you're recharging sons,
That's my Lord. I give thanks.
All right. Uncle Justin. My sister, just give thanks. It was a blessed show once again. And hopefully next time it will be even better.
Yes, I hope so. I'm sure it will.
Yeah. So with that, Guru Nefer.
Yeah. More strength.